We used to think of mental health as something private, something you whispered about, something you hid. Today, it's everywhere. It's in our TikToks, our candles, our planners, our skincare, our YouTube feeds. Feeling burnt out? There is a course. Feeling anxious? There's an app. Feeling broken? There's a whole cart full of self care products waiting for you. In other words, our pain is real, but so is the market built around it. This video is about that tension. What does mental health as a market category mean? Two big shifts happened over the last few decades. Mental health moved from stigma to mainstream. We started talking openly about burnout, anxiety, depression, trauma, ADHD. At the same time, capitalism learned how to package those words into products, services, and content. So now, those labels are three things at once. Number one, clinical diagnosis, things doctors treat. Number two, personal identities. I'm an anxious person. I'm burnt out. Number three, marketing segments, specific groups to sell to. That's the core tension. The same label that gives you language and validation also opens up a huge market. I'm anxious. Maybe I need therapy or medication. But also, maybe I need this 80 pounds candle, this app subscription, this productivity course, this influencer's healing merch. Your struggle becomes a customer profile. A sociologist called Eva Illouz uses the term emotional capitalism. In simple words, our emotions are no longer just private feelings. They become things to manage, brand, package, and sell. We feel shame, there is a product. Anxiety, there is a product. Loneliness, there is a product. So the pattern is you feel bad. That feeling is framed as a problem state. The market offers endless solutions, wellness routines, apps, retreats, crystals, candles, teas. The message is your feelings are a problem, but don't worry. We have something you can buy. It's your job to fix yourself. The self care pressure. The idea is instead of fixing systems, we tell individuals to cope better. So, precarious jobs, low pay, long hours become a resilience problem. No children, no support becomes you need better boundaries. Cost of living, housing stress turns into you are not doing self care properly. Researchers have linked this mindset to more mental distress because the message you receive is you are burned out and anxious, and that's kind of on you. But here is a list of things you can buy to fix it. So self care quietly shifts from a radical idea about rest and survival to if you're not okay, you need to buy more things. Let's talk about how labels become identities and content niches. Number one is burnout as a personality. Writer Anne Helen Peterson called millennials the burnout generation. Burnout is no longer just a workplace condition. It becomes a diagnosis, a personality descriptor. I'm such a burnout person. And a content niche. Burnout memes, burnout coaches, burnout friendly planners. Burnout is real, but once it becomes an aesthetic and a brand, people start to profit from it. Next is anxiety and depression as online persona. On platforms like TikTok and Instagram, you have probably seen cute graphics about anxiety, memes about depression, relatable content about trauma and ADHD. Studies have found that a lot of mental health content online is misleading or oversimplified. Many clips romanticize illness. Over half of top TikToks under hashtag mental health tips in one study contained misinformation. At the same time, you have hashtags like hashtag LexaProTalk, hashtag ZoloFitGang. On one hand, that can destigmatize meds. On the other, it can trivialize serious treatment and turn it into a trend. So, anxiety and depression become ways to describe yourself, styles of posting, and commercial niches for merch, journals, collabs. How the market makes money from mental health. Now, let's go through a few big players. Number one is the wellness industry. Self care on a shelf. The wellness industry is worth trillions globally. A big chunk of its story is about mental well being. reduce stress, heal your trauma, glow from within. Critics say it turns self care into a shopping list. It often ignores structural problems like poverty, overwork, inequality, and says health and happiness are a choice. So, a radical idea like I take care of myself so I can survive in an unfair world gets watered down into I bought a 60-pound mask and an 80-pound candle. That's my self care. Self care becomes an aesthetic, a lifestyle, and a SKU, a stock keeping unit. Mental health apps are now a multi billion-dollar market. Apps like Calm and Headspace make hundreds of millions in revenue. Teletherapy apps run on subscription models. Some positives: they can increase access. They help people who would never walk into a clinic. They offer daily tools and reminders. But critics worry about privacy. Your mood, sleep, and thoughts become data. Paywalls. The most useful feature often sit behind subscriptions. Effectiveness. Not all apps are clinically sold. Some might even harm. So, your anxiety becomes a user profile, a data stream, and a recurring revenue line. Next is influencers and the sad girl brand. There is also a growing niche of influencers whose entire brand is I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm healing. The usual pattern: share deep personal struggles to build trust and intimacy. Then introduce journals, courses, brand deals, healing products. Again, the pain might be real, but it also becomes content and income. Some researchers call this commodifying mental illness. And then there is the workplace. Instead of reducing workloads, increasing pay, hiring more people, many companies offer resilience workshops, mindfulness apps, wellness webinars. Burnout becomes a badge. Why did mental health become so profitable? A few big forces came together. Number one is real distress, precarious jobs, low security, long hours, underfunded public services, 24 by 7 digital life, constant comparison. So, distress is real and often rising. Next is less stigma, more content. The good part: less stigma. More people feel able to say, I'm struggling. More people seek help. The complicated part: mental health also becomes content for clicks, views, and sales. It turns into aesthetic and identity online. Next is business models love chronic problems. Subscription models love things that never fully end. Anxiety comes back, burnout comes back, sleep problems come back. So it suits the system when your problem is chronic. Your feelings become something to manage forever and therefore something to pay for forever. The good, the bad, and the messy. Let's be fair and nuanced. What are the upsides? Number one is more open talk. People feel less alone. More tools, apps, therapies, communities. Some genuinely help. More language. People can finally name what they feel. For many, these markets have been life changing. What are the downsides? Number one, blaming individuals. Systems causes distress, but people are told it's their mindset. Number two is pathologizing normal feelings. Everyday sadness, stress, or tiredness gets labeled as disorder. People feel broken when they are just human. Number three is misinformation. A lot of viral content oversimplifies or just gets it wrong, then sells a fix. Next is data risks. Your most valuable thoughts and habits become data for profit. Next is inequality. The best care and retreats are expensive. Often the people most harmed by the system can't afford the solutions. Next is identity lock-in. When your income and online identity depend on being the anxious one or the burnt out one, it becomes harder to change or heal. So what does mental health as a market category really mean? It means as stigma fell and distress rose, mental health moved from the shadows into the marketplace. Our burnout, anxiety, and depression are not just things to heal anymore. They are data points, content genres, and brand territories. Wellness brands, apps, influencers, pharma, and employers all monetize our need for relief and belonging. And often, without meaning to, they shift the focus away from broken systems and back onto individual self management. The paradox is this: we have more language and tools than ever, but also more pressure, more confusion, and a new kind of stress. The feeling that you have to perform your pain publicly and buy your way to being okay. If you have watched this far, I'm curious, where do you draw the line? What's the difference between a tool that genuinely supports your mental health and a product that just profits from your pain? Hi, I'm Akanksha and this was The Storyteller's Lens. Please, please, please subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one.